All right, we're just pulling out here of Oakchney State Park. What a cool little small campground, like 30 sites, but really pretty and well taken care of. It was a nice place. We're actually heading to another state park called St. Andrews State Park, but we have a one-day gap. We tried to book a harvest host, but we weren't able to get in with them being full. So we did book one night over here at Coastline RV Resort, and we'll be able to take advantage of hopefully the laundry facilities, get caught up on that before we head out the next day to the next state park. It's getting unhooked here. We're just here for a night. We're at a place called Coastline RV Resort in Eastpoint, Florida. Pretty cool. Nice little spot right across the street. I don't know if you can see right from the ocean. Views are amazing. So the resort is located at 957 US Highway 98 in Eastpoint, Florida, right on the Apalachicola Bay, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It offers direct views across the bay towards St. George Sound, St. George Island, and Dog Island, with good sunrise and sunset visibility, typical of the county, Franklin County here. It does consist of two separate sections, so I'm assuming they expanded at some point from the east to the west, likely. So often referred to as the East Park, or the resort side, that's what we pulled into and checked in. And then the West Park, or the campground side, is split in the middle along the property, about 500 yards apart. And the east section includes the main amenities like a pool, clubhouse, spa-like bathhouse, and some vacation rentals. Now, the west side, I think they've added all this on too, or in what order, I'm not sure, because we had a pool and facilities, and they had rental cabins there too. The west section is more basic in some reviews, gravel grass sites without as many frills, and it has an on-site barbecue restaurant. I'll get into that here in a little bit. Total setup both sides includes about, I think there's 100 full hookup RV sites across both sections, and I think there were some seasonal sites there too. So part, or maybe a third of them, were seasonal. Then they had some specifics. I'm assuming they had some long-term people there and monthly sites too. But yeah, they do accommodate big rigs, pull-through options, brick paver patios on some, grassy areas for some, and space as well. We had, I don't know if it's new grass, but we had a lot of sand, but you could tell they were either growing grass or at some point were trying to, and then they had just recently mulched the place as well. They do have, I mentioned, the swimming pool, bathhouses, laundry, picnic areas. There's dog parks, pet-friendly policy, no tent or primitive camping allowed, though. Just RVs at this place. And location, you're about, I think it's 7 to 10 miles from St. George Island beaches via Highway 98 and the bridge. And this place, I guess, opened in 2013. And it's right there off the highway, right across the ocean. It's really pretty. And I could tell why people would be drawn here. But it's not cheap. We paid, I think, $80 a night. We were only there for one night, but $80 a night. But it did have beautiful views. It was full hookups. It was convenient, right off the highway. I presume there's a much better rates if you're booking longer than a night, right? So weekly or monthly, probably going to get you a little cheaper than that. We just had a short drive today, like, I don't know, 30, 40 miles or something, right on the coast. It's a free, beautiful drive. I think we are averaging about 865 watt hours per mile on that trip, and most of it was 55 mile per hour road, 60 mile per hour road, which I think just breaks us out to, if we kept that average, about 140 miles of range. It was a short drive. We're not concerned about any of that here. But we just got a one-night stay at this place. But it looks really cool, right across the street from the water. It's awesome. We stayed on the West Park side, like I mentioned. We did, when we first got there, we checked out the swimming pool. So part of this whole thing was we were going to stop, do some laundry, do some swimming, and then head on to our next stop. We just needed one day in between our two state parks. So we checked out the swimming pool. Website advertised heated pool. Evidently that's on the east side, because the west side pool is definitely not heated. We ended up not swimming that day. We could have went to the west side, I'm sure, but we just kind of got busy with some of the things taken care of. But the pool was very cold, but still open. If you wanted to take a cold plunge, if that's your thing, I think they would have done it.
And the water was cold.
And they, like I mentioned, they did have rentals. There was park model style cabins, pretty cool. They were all painted the same, but they had different names, clever beach-like names, you know, make it fun for the family. And then they had the small dog parks. They had two sides, one for smaller dogs and one for larger. Lily's, of course, in the larger category generally is a standard poodle. Small, but better than no dog park, and we've definitely seen worse. There was no other dogs playing while we were there, but it was something to get off leash, I guess. So better than nothing, though. And then they did have a bathhouse, clean bathhouse set up. They give you a key code to all the buildings, the bathhouses, as well as the laundry room and the facility room over there. I'll get to in a second. But the bathhouses were clean. How they had it set up, you'd go into the building, and then you had two bathrooms to the left and two to the right. Men's on one side and women's on the other, and each bath, there was two of each, and each were like a full bathroom, right? Sink, toilet, shower, and but nice. And they had like a little waiting area with I think there's a TV or a bookshelf if you were hanging out waiting for somebody. But no, clean, nice little spot. And then the laundry was pretty large, a large amount of units. Now they did not have a tap to pay set up or a scan barcode or use the app. It was only quarters, and they were $3 per machine. They did have a change machine, but it only took $1 bills and $5 bills, nothing larger. Keep that in mind if you got to get quarters there. And the dryers did get hot, I'm happy to announce. So we were able to dry our clothes in one cycle pretty easily. And connected to that laundry building on the west side, they had like a brand new looking pickleball court. No one was playing, and there's some type of fitness center going in. So I think there's a lot going on construction-wise still on the west side. And they had I saw some machinery inside, but I couldn't see how we got into it. And then maybe they're going to have some offices over there too. And then I mentioned earlier the restaurant on site. So I'm not sure if it's technically part of the campground. I think they advertise it maybe on the website that they have a restaurant. Maybe it's family, or maybe it is all involved. But open to the public, and then RV campers can just walk right over from the campground. It's real easy, but they have a little small parking lot for people from the public as well. It's called Fat Daddy's Smokehouse and Grill. We did eat dinner here. I think it was on a Friday night. It was pretty hopping, actually. The place was definitely popular, at least from the locals that were driving over. They had live music inside, sounded pretty good. We sat outside on the deck because the inside was packed. They did have a lot of dogs, so I saw a sign that said dogs are allowed on the patio. I assumed it was outside on the deck, but there's dogs inside too. So if you want to take your dog to dinner and listen to some live music, I'd say Fat Daddy's is where it's at. But yeah, the food was great. We had some barbecue. Service was great. They were really nice. Good. I'd recommend checking it out. Prices were okay, but the food was fantastic. And yeah, I'm glad we checked it out. Overall, this stop, like I said, at Coastline RV Resort was just an overnight. We would have grabbed a Harvest Host spot if we could, just to save the $80. But it was nice. We got to do laundry. We got to check out the restaurant. Beautiful views. I mean, it was very pretty. Nice place, but expensive. But clean. Fantastic views of the water is kind of what you get. Yeah, so we left there. We headed up the Coastal Highway for more stunning views. Right up 98's awesome. It's a great route through here. You're kind of hugging the water and you're seeing the waves crash. It's really pretty. We had about almost 71 miles on that leg. I think we're not too much further away from the St. Andrews State Park, but just for reference, it's actually really windy on this coastal road. We had a pretty strong crosswind, but range wasn't terrible because the roads were about 60 mile per hour mostly. A couple stoplights, not many, but we were averaging, looks like about 831 watt hours per mile, with I think puts us just under, right around 150, just under 150 miles of range, which is usually what we expect and calculate. So if the winds weren't so strong, I think we would have done even better there.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and buy all of our sponsors' products. Pikmin, the funnest game that ever existed. Except for Kirby's Outriders.
So the campground is in the, I think they're 1,200 acre total for the park, St. Andrews State Park. It is, they've got a mile and a half of white sand beaches and Grand Lagoon, St. Andrews Bay. It's about 3 miles east of central Panama City Beach off Thomas Drive and State Road 392. Close to attractions, but in a kind of a natural buffered setting on Florida's Emerald Coast. Hurricane Michael has a little bit of history. It got hit pretty hard. Hurricane Michael caused extensive damage to the campground way back in 2018, including from high winds and storm surge. And I understand that the entire campground was heavily impacted and largely closed for years while reconstruction took place in phases. They partially reopened, I think starting around 2022, and then full reopening and major upgrades completed in the following years. But this place is nice with the paved roads. The sites are really clean. They rebuilt, elevating the campground about 3 feet, I guess, to reduce future flood risks. They added full hookups. They didn't have, I guess, prior. So you got 30 and 50 amp electric, water, and sewer at every site. They've got new bathhouses and different features there. And I guess it used to be pretty shaded and a lot of the trees got taken out with the hurricane. So if you use Starlink like I do, we were able to get really strong signal here at this park. Great park, really pretty. It does have 2 main section loops, often called East Loop and the Lagoon side, with sites, I think it's 1 through 92, and the West Loop, Pine Grove sides with sites 93 through 158. The East Loop generally offers more open space and some lagoon waterfront access, and the West Loop provides views of lower Grand Lagoon, but has less vegetation now post rebuild from the hurricane. The campground was rebuilt with a loop layout, many sites with lagoon proximity or views in waterfront spots, like around Site 49, noted for easy access to a small lagoon beach area. So some of them have little quirks like that you can get into the water from your site. I think there's total about 158 full hookup RV and tent sites across both sections. And then they have some eco tents, glamping, some people will call it, or I call them yurts a lot of time, just commonly, but kind of a permanent tent setup. Yeah, they have a specific tent area. There's like 3 or 4, I think, over by our last stop. That's right. But yeah, it's close to Panama City Beach. Spots, but set in natural surroundings, ideal for beach swimming, snorkeling, and emerald waters. It was a little cooler. We were there in January. High ratings online. We expected that. We knew it was hard to get into, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is definitely on the short list. And if you're anywhere near Panama City, try to get into this place. But it's a popular spot. You do year-round camping as well, and obviously it's probably going to peak being in the Panhandle in the summertime. We were here for 6 total nights. This place is super popular. We were able to get this spot for 2 days, and we're actually just moving across the street right there for another 2 days, and then we moved to another spot. But the place is great, so we book up. We wanted to stay more than 2 days, so we just got bounced around a little bit. No big deal. Actually, each of our upgraded sites is an upgrade. We're moving to the water, and then we moved down a little further on the water with an even better site after that. So win-win, I guess. Which was great. This place is extremely popular. A lot of shuffling around by RVs each day. So you would see people, packing up and moving to the spot across the way or down the road. And I guess, unless you schedule way in advance, or you're from Florida, they get first dibs, I understand, then it's probably going to happen to you. But it was a cheap place to stay for what you got. I think we only paid $35 per night, which is a steal. For full hookups, and you're on the water. Essentially, if you're not on the water, you can see the water from your campsite. Really pretty. The place has, like I said, the whole park being rebuilt, it has a lot of new asphalt. So even throughout the campground is asphalt. They have bike paths that are asphalt, and obviously the roads coming in and out of the park are asphalt. Really nice and convenient for bike riding, walking. Yeah, we really enjoyed that. We did a lot of bike riding. So you come into the gate, you get checked in like usual. Very nice rangers. I think Lily was even given a dog biscuit by the nice ranger that checked us in. So thanks to him from Lily. They have multiple lanes when you pull in. If you're going to the campground, stay to the left, and then the day visitors will go to the right to go to the beach or other parts of the state park. And then as campers, they'll give you a gate code for the first gate, but you'll also realize there's a new gate into the campground after that. So this keeps the day visitors, I guess, from going through that direction and separates them off. It looked like it was a new gate though. So it might be not long ago installed. And our first day there, it was beautiful. It was 80 degrees and we took advantage. We got the bikes out in just a short mile and a half, I think, ride from the campground, and you're at the beach. There's stuff all over this place to do. Tons of multi-purpose trails here. Very safe. Like I said, nice for bikes, safe, you're off the road. On the way to the beach, we did stop. They have a marina camp store. I think this was a Saturday. It actually closed at 4 p.m. We got there right before 4. So I'm assuming seasonal hours. South Florida, that's one point, and obviously being a little warmer. South Florida, I don't think we experience seasonal hours. But now that we get further north, with some of the temperatures in the panhandle get a little cooler, I think that we're running into that with some of the things closing and the water features closing because of the cooler weather. So they closed at 4. I'm guessing maybe they're open a little bit later in the summertime. So we went to the beach, beautiful as expected and what we researched. There were some people fishing there. They had a little cove on the other side of the inlet. We got to see some dolphins on that day. It was nice. Yeah, spent a little time over there. It was a little windy that day, and the waves were pretty, kind of the angle of the beach was crashing down. I can't remember. I think there were some people surfing, potentially, if I recall. If I have some footage, I'll put it in. But yeah, cool little spot. So the next morning, we checked out a local breakfast spot that we found online with some great reviews. I think it was called Sunrise Cafe and Bakery. Short drive from the state park. I don't think the mile. We went into town and kind of a little bit west. I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes probably. But good food, good service. We were kind of in and out pretty quick. They were on it. But yeah, we had a great experience at the campground. This place has a ton of fantastic sites. Probably some of the best we've seen in terms of waterfront, especially for $35. That's insane. So our first site was site number 118, and we were just across the street from the water. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but we actually had to move 3 times in 6 days. Most people had to move sites from what I could see. It just because if you want to be there longer than a day or two, it's tough in one site because they're usually booked out. And this place was full. It was like clockwork. People pulling out, people pulling in, and they don't have trouble filling these spots even with some of the weather we end up running into. The sites were wide, real wide. You had a lot of room for your rig. Camping pad is made most up of loose gravel, small gravel, soft. It ruts up a little bit kind of with the bikes, but not too bad with the vehicles. So there's a hard base underneath. And the campground hosts, they'll come by. Each person who pulls out and going to the next site or getting out of the park, the campground host will come by and then they'll rake the gravel back even the best they can for the next group. And they also did have a handful of pull-through sites. So there was perfect for the larger coaches with tow vehicles. There were some bigger rigs there. It wasn't a problem. Some state parks are definitely not friendly. Florida state parks, for example, these have no problem at all getting in there, especially if you can get to the pull-through. And then earlier I mentioned the yurts and the tents they had. Appeared to have water lines running to them in the air conditioning unit or some type of system. I'm not sure if they have plumbing in those or not, but shower and bathhouses were fine. And then they had a small little playground area that looked kind of new, part of the rebuild, I'm guessing, after the hurricane. Now, we did ride up front. You can ride everywhere in the park because of all the multi-purpose trails. We rode up and we checked out the visitor or nature center. I can't remember exactly what they referred to it as. It felt like it was an unstaffed building. I'm sure maybe there's some rangers in there from time to time. And I'm not sure if it closes or when it closes, because I think we were there after 5 p.m. or maybe just before, and it was still open. So you walk in, they had some exhibits and actually a lot of exhibits on local wildlife and history. We spent a handful of time there. Nice to check out. A lot of Florida state parks we've been to, I feel like they don't have the visitor nature center. Maybe they have, they've got enough nature for you to check out outside in the park and the campground that, it doesn't happen. But I'm sure it has to do with kind of money coming in as well. But it was nice. I don't know if I've talked about it as much recently, because some of the parks we hit were similar in terms of some of the white-tailed deer, but I feel like here they were extra friendly. They were everywhere. They were not afraid of humans, very comfortable around campers and people. They were walking, they were not in a hurry, but cool to see, a lot of deer. And if you are into putting the boat in, they did have a boat ramp area and a marina. And I think this is another thing that's seasonal. It was closed for the winter, but they have a Shell Island ferry that takes off here from this state park. So something you can check on. But on this day, quite a temp change from the 80-degree weather when we arrived. Now we knew, as we're kind of coming up north through the Panhandle and we're heading west, we knew we weren't in South Florida anymore and we're going to be experiencing some lower temps. But we dealt with some windy conditions for a few days and got down into the 30s. It's a big drastic change from 80 degrees. Big wardrobe change too. But the place is great, you know, rain or I think cool or hot. It's beautiful, beautiful pink sky sunsets. You know, we got to ride bikes every day. Lily got her bike in. We run usually her a couple times per day. She pulls me around the loop. I want to say it was like a mile and a half if you did the whole campground loop. And we do that 2 times a day. And this usually is required to get her close to being tired and with all her energy that she has. So a couple loops a day is usually, plus the walks in between. But we were able to take advantage here with all the nice pavement. And yeah, we saw a lot more deer too. More white-tailed deer. I think we saw a bald eagle. Let me know what you think. Maybe it was something else, but I tried to zoom in and I didn't have my big camera with me. So let me know what you think. I think it is, but maybe something else. And then after our second day, so every 2 days we had to move out of 6. We moved just across the street, literally across the street. Our sites did improve. So site 117 was on the water. And then our last 2 days, we moved to site 138. Packed up, moving to site number 3 here at St. Andrews. I guess the site shovel is pretty common from me seeing some of our neighbors. We're all kind of moving around from time to time. It's just hard to get anywhere for a long. Florida residents, I think, get first right of reservations. So us from outside the state kind of have to pick up in the gaps, but not a huge deal. We're actually moving to even a cooler site, so looking forward to it. This was probably the friendliest site when it comes to deer. We had no patio side neighbor, so no passenger side or patio side of the camper, and it was just woods, and then we were on the water. And a female white-tailed deer visited the first time, and she seemed super interested in my son, who was at the picnic table. And then not long after she had left, but she just hung out. She was not spooked. She saw us. We were very close. She was very close. A young buck came by a little later to check him out as well. It kind of did the same thing, maybe not quite as long. And then each day we were there, the female came back. And we even caught, I think, deer on the security cameras around back of the camper. And between the water, it was pretty cool. I mean, we've seen deer. We have white-tailed deer and, you know, up north and other states, of course. We've been to state parks. There's deer running around. It's not abnormal. But these guys probably seem the most comfortable around campers that I've ever seen. And maybe they're, you know, they're born there and obviously they're not getting hunted. And they don't see any humans as a threat. But it was really cool just to be that close to some of the wildlife. All these sandburrs, Lily gets them all the time, unfortunately. We have to keep pulling them out of our feet here. We haven't seen this, I don't think, since Myrtle Beach, maybe? I feel like we haven't had this in Florida. Yeah, we dropped, the football just rolled into the sand. It just stuck all over the football. Crazy, pretty painful. I did a load of laundry earlier today and have a second load to do, but there were some other people trying to do laundry, so I just took a break and let them kind of shuffle in. Florida state parks, they usually only have one washer and one dryer at the bathhouse. Now, fortunately, there's 4 bathhouses here, so I came a little bit ago to the bathhouse number 4, which is closest to our campsite. It is occupied. Went down to 3, and a lady and just beat me up the ramp it's occupied. Went down to 2. I'm riding my bike hauling this around. Went down to 2. No laundry at 2. Went to 1 and there's laundry, and actually the washer was open. So walked up there to use the washer, but it only takes quarters, which is fine. I have a ton of quarters. I have like $40 worth of quarters camper. But I didn't bring them because I've been using the app on the other washer and dryer. That one's just not updated. So now I'm back to 4, and I'm just gonna wait out, see if I can get in after this cycle is over with the other campers. We'll see. But yeah, overall, the place is very pretty and nice. I think that if you're even thinking about going through here, you need to stop here. It is, I don't want to say it's the nicest we've ever been to State Park, but it's in the top couple. I definitely will go back here when we come through Panama City, if we can get in. The rebuild after the hurricanes with full hookups for $35 is unbelievable. I'd put this on your list of stops if you're making a map here. But up next, we head over to Pensacola, Florida, where we stay for about a week at Big Lagoon State Park. This is actually our last stop in Florida, and before we head west further. It gets really cold. It does snow a little bit, but it's a great little park. They've got a lot of access here. There's a lot going on outside the park, and then they've got a national seashore just around the corner, which is great, with some very fantastic beaches as well. So I appreciate it if you're still with me, and I'll work on getting the next one out as soon as I can. See you then.